Welcome to Real Estate Secrets Unlocked, the podcast that takes you inside the minds of the industry's top professionals, revealing their top secrets to success. I'm your host, Danielle Damianov. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, get ready to learn the latest trends, strategies, and secrets that will help you succeed. Join us as we go beyond the basics and explore what it takes to make it in the world of real estate. So buckle up and get ready for a wild ride. This is Real Estate Secrets Unlocked. Hey everybody, it's Danielle Damianov with Real Estate Secrets Unlocked, and I am here today with Robert Howell. I'm actually so excited to have you on because I had your partner on last week, Chris Gabri, and we talked a lot about manufactured homes, your land home packages, and everything that you guys do. So this will be a very interesting take two. And I do want to say he taught you everything you know.
I'm sure he did.
So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you guys do?
Yeah, for sure. So let's start from the beginning. How about that? But I traveled and moved all over growing up. My dad worked for Coca-Cola, and we traveled around. He got promoted every 15 months or so, and we'd have to move to a new location all the way through fifth grade. And then in fifth grade, we settled in Greenville, South Carolina, and great place, upstate of South Carolina. Stayed there all the way through college, went to Clemson University. And while I
Oh,
was
wow.
at Clemson, I was reading an alumni magazine about just what alumni are up to. And I was studying marketing, and there was a lady, Julie Wilsterman, and she was working at Coca-Cola and said that she was the Olympic torch relay director for Coca-Cola. I was like, oh, that'd be really cool. I called her up. My dad worked for Coca-Cola, so I said, hey, can you look up her email address? And so I emailed her, and she was like, well, hey, Robert, nice to meet you. You could either come to Atlanta and work in the Coca-Cola office as an intern and do that before the Olympics. Or if you want, you could go and work for a marketing agency called Ignition and go out on the Olympic torch relay. And as a college student, I said, well, shoot, yeah, I'd love to go and see the country. And so I took off my junior year and traveled around the U.S. on the Olympic torch relay. And we went to 45 states in 65 days. In fact,
Oh,
you can see
wow.
behind me, I've got the Olympic torches that I've worked
Oh,
on,
that's awesome.
worked on in the back. But um, anyways, I tell you that because I kept doing event marketing for my career, really. Well, not my whole career because I'm not that old, but did event marketing all the way through COVID and had some awesome experiences. Went to Super Bowl, went to a lot of NASCAR races, national championships, Olympics. I think I've been to 5 or 6 Olympics.
Oh, wow.
Um,
That's awesome. With Ignite, is that the company that you were with?
with Ignition, yeah.
Ignition.
Um,
My she's at University of Miami right now for marketing, so I'm interested in what you're
Awesome.
talking
Well, hey, look,
about.
we could get her connected. Event
Yes.
marketing is a great career. You get to see a lot and do a lot. But COVID hit, and I was like, oh, there's never going to be an event again. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'd always had some passion for real estate. Actually, my grandfather, my mom's dad, was a builder in Memphis, Tennessee, so I think it was in the blood. But so I said, well, I can't do events. I might as well do real estate. That's really, what I'd kind of had the itch to do for a long time, but had a job and never really did it. And so started buying and selling houses, wholesaling in South Carolina. And that was before things went crazy, I could buy a house for $5,000 and sell it for 25. And
Where is
that
that?
was
Was
like in the upstate, pretty rural areas. But
what?
um,
Tell us the year though, because that could be
that was
true. Like
like
back in '07.
2020,
Okay.
2019, 20, like right at the beginning of COVID, before things really went crazy.
Wow.
Um, and so I did that, and as I was doing that, I ran across a gentleman, LaFoy Ellenberg, great guy. He said I was buying some houses from him, and he's like, "Hey, my nephew owns that mobile home park across the street." I said, "Well, that's cool. I don't know anything about mobile home parks, but I knew a lot about affordable housing because that's what I was really buying, and those were the rentals I had." And so I said, "Yeah, I'd be interested. Tell me more." And so talked to the owner, talked to the guy that he actually had the seller financing note with, and negotiated a deal. It was 115 lots, mobile
Wow.
home park. And I didn't know anything about it, but a tornado had gone through it a couple years prior. So there's really only, I think, 10 houses actually still being occupied. But bought that, great seller financing terms, fixed it up. As part of that process in South Carolina, if you're going to sell more than two mobile homes, you need to have a dealer's license. That's
Mm.
state law. And so I said, all right, well, I'll get a dealer's license. They were nice enough to give me one. You're supposed to have 2 years experience. And I didn't have 2 years experience at the time, but
Two
they
years of
said,
experience of what?
selling mobile homes, I guess, or
Okay.
now what they call it, it's like 2 years experience in the mobile home industry or relevant experience. So I think they
Real
opened it up
estate.
a little bit, like real
Okay.
estate type experience.
Because there's people listening that might be interested in this, but have zero, they sell real estate or deal with real estate investing, but have no mobile home experience.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. So you can still get started. We can talk about that more in detail as we get going here. But anyhow, got my dealer's license. Saw, hey, I could buy these manufactured homes, mobile homes for really good pricing direct from the factory. And we were doing Chris and I were doing some flipping at the time. I said, well, if I get homes this cheap, then why don't I just buy land and put a new manufactured home on it and do land home packages? At the time, like no one was really talking about land home packages, and so there wasn't really a lot of education. So we learned from our subcontractors that we hired that had been old mobile home guys for a long time. Great guys, really, and we're still working with a lot of them, years later. But and so we stopped flipping, and because flipping was hard, and there's a lot of surprises flipping,
oh yeah,
and we started doing land home packages. And so Chris and I have done quite a few land home packages, and we just continue to do more. Last year we did 50. I'm hoping this year we can do 75 to 100 land home
that's
packages. We'll
awesome.
see. But it's great because it provides a affordable housing for people that are in need. Just a lot of great stories, and we can talk about those later. But a lot of great stories of people that like never thought they could afford a house, and we're able to provide them a great brand new manufactured house to live in.
Right. Well, and I want to kind of go back to the fix and flip. I think a lot of people out there, especially real estate investors that have never got into it before, think, oh, you probably make so much money on a fix and flip. And to be honest, you can actually lose money. I'm speaking from experience over here, especially if you get into the house and there are more surprises or more things that you didn't know, more things you need to fix. And couple that with a downturn in the market, and now it's just like, okay, where we thought our profit was going to be and where it's actually going to be is not there anymore.
Right, right,
So I do think people, understanding your market for sure, and then also realizing like if it's right now in May and you're expecting to fix a property and flip it by September, October, you might not be selling it until, let's just say, the end of the year, depending on the market. And you want to take into consideration depreciation if that's in your area, because I do know it is in a lot of areas. And I think people always think that properties appreciate, but that's not always the case, especially if you've been around, for a while. So when I was talking to Chris last week, he had mentioned the pitfalls of fix and flip, and then how profitable, because you guys can really understand your ROI and your margins a lot better than a fix and flip.
that's right. Yeah, it's the way I look at it and we compare it is to the conveyor belt of a factory, right? And that's our goal is if you're a factory and you're producing a widget, you're going to produce that widget the same every single time. You can't do that with flips, but with land home
Right.
packages, really you can because it's new construction. The home's made in a factory. As long as we do all of our due diligence right, it's the same process every single time, and that's what we really like about it. There's no surprises.
So what are some, and I want to kind of say this is like by area also. What are some of the surprises that people should watch out for, or some things that could eat up your ROI? Because you already know the home is going to be this particular price, right? But what are some of the other things?
Yeah, what I would say is if you don't do your due diligence properly and check all the items off, and we've got probably a 40 item checklist for due diligence, and we're really thorough because
That is something you can sell, by the way.
yeah, for sure, 100%. And we, for us, it's like we got a lot of projects going on, and honestly, I'm pretty risk adverse in terms of the risk that I want to take, and so I'm gonna go through that due diligence. So make sure you do that. The other, beyond that is like getting quotes for everything. We get during our due diligence period, we get quotes on every single item. And the nice thing is we're buying land, and so we're typically able to negotiate a 30 to 45 day due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, as you probably know, when you're buying a house to flip, a lot of
Like a port.
times it's from a wholesaler or there's a distressed seller that needs to sell quick. And so you only got like 14 days, right?
Right.
Which isn't enough time to like really do all the estimates you need. So
Yeah.
we get 30, 45 days. We go through our due diligence. We get contractor quotes. We other things to watch out for like grading cost. That's not a science by any means. It's an art. And when I think that something's going to cost 5,000, it might end up being 8,000. I got a bill this morning actually. Like we were $12,000 over budget because there was a burn ban and we couldn't burn on site. We had to haul everything away, and so it cost us
Oh,
$12,000 extra. So could we have been patient and waited for it to rain and get over the burn ban? Probably. And that's what my grader says. He said, you should have waited. But, for us, it's like we didn't know when that burn ban was going to be over.
right.
Um, what else? Septic. Septic is a big surprise sometimes. It's like, hey, what's the septic cost? We think it costs this, but it really costs X. And you don't know that until you have the septic permit and you can have an estimate from a septic contractor off of the permit.
Yeah, and I know in Florida we have a lot of like burrowing owls or like, certain things on animals on property, protected, animals that can create huge, huge, huge problems when it comes to land and stuff like that. So really, like if you don't know what you're doing, I suggest getting a real estate agent that knows what they're doing to really kind of help you with that. So what would you say on estimate like your ROI is per property?
Yeah, so we're aiming for in the upstate of South Carolina, the minimum look at is 30K. And then, it could be upwards of 100K if you find a an area that sells for higher pricing.
That's awesome. What's your
Yeah.
average sales price?
Um, on the lower end, it's like 225. On the higher end, 275.
Okay, that's good. And what people don't understand is 225 to 275 and a monthly mortgage payment is not a whole lot. Like it's not that much,
Yeah.
different.
I was shocked when we started selling in markets where it was 275. I was like, dang, that's crazy. Like, who would think a manufactured house would sell for 275? But then you look at the market and you say, well, if you look at what their other options are, the
For
other option is
275.
275, you're going to get a townhome, right? Or maybe a 1,000 square foot, older house, right? If you get a comparable house, in terms of fresh, new square footage, you know, manufactured home might cost 275. A site built house might be 350.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so, you talk about affordability. Yeah, the payments, relative to my expectations because of where I live may seem high, but to that local market are really affordable
Right.
for those people.
So let's talk about going back to your first manufactured home deal. First, I think you got lucky, right? You kind of stumbled upon a deal that then took, kind of like led the way for you getting into this. But a lot of people, well, first of all, were the manufactured home rentals or were they, what were they? Were they rentals? Were they
So the mobile home park was rentals. And so for me, I've got like two strategies. One is the mobile home parks, which is really rentals and long-term gains, also tax advantages through depreciation. And so I buy mobile home parks every year, not for, hey, my income today, because they all have loans on them, but for my retirement in 10, 15 years and also the tax advantage. But then the land home packages are all for sale. We don't keep any of those.
So the manufactured home, are you doing a lot of owner financing? Are you finding distressed? Like, I want to talk a little bit about that because there are people that are, interested in getting into that. I know there's coaching programs out there and stuff like that, but where are you finding the financing for that?
For a mobile home park,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a great question. People think, oh, there's no financing. You can't buy them. Like, who's going to finance a trailer park, right? But the reality is as the interest in that asset class has grown, the availability of lenders has grown also. And so, for me personally, there's a few ways we finance. One is through seller financing, and that's probably about half of my portfolio is seller financing. The second is banks and local banks. And in my market, at least, there's three, four banks that will finance mobile home parks. And then the third would be brokers, right? And so working through brokers that will then broker out your loan. But you need a bit of a larger park or portfolio to do that.
Right. Do you have a minimum, like minimum mobile manufactured homes in a park that you'll buy?
Not for me personally. A lot of people do, right? A lot of people say I want to buy 20 lots or more. For me, my parks are anywhere from 3 lots to my biggest, I think it's 30 lots, so all small and
Okay.
mid-size. But the way I look at it is you think about 3 lots. When my kids go to college, let's say I'm going to be getting $500 lot rent there. So $1,500 a month is $18,000 a year. That one 3 lot park will almost pay. I mean, of course, I've got some expenses, but will almost pay for my kids' college, right? Um,
Depending on where they go.
Depending where they go. I mean, college is expensive these days, right? I'm
Yeah.
hoping they get some scholarship. I'm counting in some scholarship there, um, but so that's the way I look at it. Is like some people shy away or shun the 3 lot park, and for me, and maybe it's just two simple thoughts, like, well, shoot, that's $15,000, $18,000 incremental a year once it's paid off. Minus
Hmm.
some expenses, it might be 15K a year. That's significant when you stack those on top of each other.
Right, exactly. And what is your so I guess what is your involvement when you own a manufactured or mobile home park?
That's a great question. So for me personally, the way that I've set it up is I have a third party property manager that manage because I have way too much to do during the day to
Yeah.
manage them. And some people self manage, and there's
Right. The
nothing wrong with
plumbing
that.
goes to this.
Yeah, I was talking with a guy. I went to breakfast with an investor yesterday, and he was talking about he got a call the night before at 3 a.m. because a tree fell on a power line, and he's got I don't know 5 units. I was like, well, I've got 250 units, and I can't imagine the calls that I'd be getting. So, anyways, I have a great third party property management company. They manage for me. They do all the tenant screening, the repairs, the evictions, the rent collection. And then I'm involved in the acquisition side of it. So I'll go out and acquire and I'll meet with sellers. And then typically I'll be involved in any major value add. So if that's like
Hmm.
renovating units or filling units, and anyways, that's what I'm involved. Right now, it's about 1 or 2 hours a week for me. Um,
So where are you looking for them? I know there's online websites where you can find manufactured home parks. Where are you looking for these?
Yeah, so I send out I get data from the different data sources, whether that be PropStream or the
Hmm.
GIS or the county websites or Reonomy, and then I send out mailers, and so I'll send out.
Okay.
I've got a nice little 2 page letter that says, "Hey, our family wants to buy your mobile home park," and really tells a story because most of the people that we're marketing to are 60 to 80 years old, and so I'm going to give them a nice piece of mail that they can read. They can hopefully through that letter build a little trust with me, and then so they call me and say, "Hey, I'd like to sell," because they want to sell to somebody that will continue to carry on their legacy, right? They've
Right.
worked really hard. Most of these guys have worked really hard to build what they have, and they don't want to turn it over to somebody that's either going to destroy it or maybe not take care of the tenants like they've taken care of them, or increase rent, double rents, and such.
So then how do you go about asking for seller financing and what does those terms look like?
Yeah, so terms are all different, right? And as they say, you can either pay terms or price. And typically what I would do when I go talk with a seller is I explain to them. Well, number one, I ask them what they're going to do with the money and try to understand their motivation. Do they have like an immediate need for a lot of cash, or maybe they say, "Hey, I don't have a need." So that's the starting point. The second is, okay, well, do you understand that when I pay you 300,000 or $500,000 for this park, there's going to be a large tax bill. Um, and explain that to them and say, hey, instead of that tax bill, what if we're able to structure this so that you're not going to get hit with such a large tax bill? And so at that point, we then explain, hey, we'll give you a consistent monthly income for however long we agree to. And, sometimes there's an interest rate attached, and that may be, anywhere from 4 to 7%. Sometimes there may be no interest because I've paid a higher premium for the
The
park
park.
than it's worth today, really.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I would never even think to structure it like that. And then you're looking at like a 30-year term, basically.
No, so typically I'm like 15 years or 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
St amortized over 15 or
Amortized.
20.
Yeah. Because like I
Okay.
said, a lot of these guys are older, and so they don't think they're going to be alive in 30 years. So and they don't understand, like, hey, I could just pass this on to my kids. But
Right.
yeah, so typically it's 15, 20 years,
Okay. So
sometimes
it's
shorter.
really interesting because you have two things going on. You have the land home packages, and then you have the manufactured home park. And it sounds like the manufactured home parks is more of a long-term play. The ROI is not as high as a land home flip, basically.
Yeah, that's right. In my opinion, and everybody's got different strategies, but a lot of people say, "Look, Robert, man, you own 250 lots. You must be so rich and making a lot of money." Well, reality is, like, the people that are making the money are the banks that are financing it and the insurance companies that are providing insurance, right? And then the contractors that I had to hire to fix things. And so right now, really, they're making money. I don't buy a park unless it's cash flow positive,
Hmm.
but the real money comes in 10 years when they're all paid off.
Right.
And then second is the tax advantages, like I mentioned. So we're making a lot of active income through the land home packages. Well, we can
Hmm.
use the acquisition of mobile home parks and use cost segregation studies to then write down the taxes.
Yeah, that's a little bit about what Chris was talking about last week. Just do you want to maybe, and I know you're not a CPA and you're not giving financial advice or anything like that, but do you want to maybe touch upon the tax advantages that you personally see?
Yeah. So, and again, I'm probably doing a terrible job explaining this, but I'll try to explain it. So we make active income, basically flipping income, which short-term capital gains, highest tax rate you can buy through our land home packages. And then what happens is then we use the cash that we make to then buy other assets, like mobile home parks, and I can buy a $300,000 mobile home park and hire a company. I think they're called cost segregation companies. Your CPA could recommend somebody,
Hmm.
but a cost segregation company that then goes in and looks at the asset and says, okay, normally we would depreciate the road over 30 years, or we would depreciate the house over 15 years, or whatever it may be. But with the laws that the government's put in place, through cost segregation, we can accelerate all that depreciation into the first year. Not all of it. I think it's like 90%. But, and so instead of waiting 30 years to get all of that depreciation, we can get it all in year one. And so what happens is you then now bought a $300,000 mobile home park. Let's just say, again, this is probably bad math, but you've got now $30,000 of depreciation or $50,000 of depreciation that you've advanced to year one that you can use to write down your income. So
But you cannot use that again, right? So
no, it's just one
it's
year.
a
So you got
one
to
and
keep
done.
buying. That's the problem. You got to keep
Yeah,
buying. Um,
exactly.
so I bought a bunch of mobile home parks from 2021 to 2024, and it was great because I really never hardly paid tax. In 2025, I didn't buy as many, and so I had to start paying some more tax. So actually, this year, I need to buy some more mobile home parks because every year you got to buy more in order
Hey, I
to
got the
get the
financing for you.
depreciation.
Let's go. Let's go
Yeah, let's
shopping.
go. That's awesome.
So I want to kind of like recap here because you were in event marketing up until COVID, which I don't even at this point remember what year COVID was. When was this?
Yeah, I think
20,
2019, right?
was it? Okay. So then you at that point segmented into real estate. You were not doing this before. You just started it in one
I
year.
had some rentals, but not many, a
Okay.
couple rentals.
So in what year did you kind of really go, or what was the year
21.
that you 21? Okay. So this is important for everyone to hear because from 2021, and we're now in 2026, you have acquired over 250, right, rentals,
That's right.
and you're flipping land home packages around 50 to 75 hopefully this year per
Yeah.
year. So you don't need 30 years to try and do this or a ton of experience or anything, right? Like you need a little bit of luck, right, on your side. Because if people, what I see is investors will get into investing and it doesn't go well the first
Right.
couple of times. And then they're like, okay, forget it. This isn't for me. Let me go back to the stock market or, whatever else they want to invest in. But I just want to kind of like, if you can just give people maybe some tips of when you're just starting out, some advice. People also think I need all this money to be able to, buy real estate, which is not true. So maybe talk about, I don't know, how much you put down on your first deal with that first manufactured home park that you fell into, and tips for investors that are just starting out.
Yeah, that's great. And I love what you said there in terms of, just getting started and you don't need 30 years. And that's the truth. So for me, as I look at my portfolio, so it's 25 mobile home parks, 250 lots. And I started with $40,000 of my own money because the first deal was seller financing. And so that's how I started. And I haven't put any incremental dollars of my own into any real estate. So you talk about luck. I bought that first one and I was able to sell it a year later and make a good profit and use that money to keep buying. But so I was able to get into it and grow it to 25 mobile home parks, and 22 of those I owned by myself. Three of them I owned with a college roommate, and we partnered together. He brought the money, the funding for it, but we partnered together on it. So you can grow pretty quickly, and those 25 really I grew from 2021 to 2024, 2025 really. Um, but so yeah, you don't really need a ton of money. You need consistency, really, and show up every day. And that's really what I would say has really kick-started me is just showing up and being consistent. When I started from 2021 to 20 January 2024, I owned a roofing company also. So I bought a
Oh,
roofing
wow.
company when COVID started. And that was my full-time daytime commitment because I had a business partner and we were committed to growing that. And so I felt like I had to really work in that 9 to 5. And so I did real estate and bought all these mobile home parts on the weekends, at night, and, grew it that way. Now in 2024, when we sold that roofing company, I then transitioned really into full-time real estate. But
Investor mode.
yeah, but it built up a good solid foundation. So you could do it while you have a job, and you don't have to have a ton of money, and you just had to show up and be consistent. And you
I
see
love
that all
that.
around. I mean, I'm sure you see that of people that show up are the ones that you see. You might not see it like in 3 months, but in 3 years, you see those people and you say, you showed
Oh,
up every
yeah.
day.
Well, it's funny because people look at other people that have success and they think they were an overnight success. They didn't see the years of consistently showing up, right? And I always say that consistency over perfection wins every single time. So, and being consistent, showing up. Any last words of advice or, anything you kind of want to like leave everybody with? One thing I do kind of want to mention though is you probably with being in marketing, right? If you were in event marketing, marketing is also huge in anything you do. If you're trying to grow your roofing business, you need to learn how to market, right? Like if you're trying to sell these properties, you need to learn how to market. So do you think marketing played a big role or maybe no role at all in what you're doing?
I think it probably did. I mean, marketing is, it's not, I mean, it is, sending the postcard out, right? And sending the direct mail out. But, my view of marketing is the entire process, right? And even down to your interaction with the seller and how did you represent, you could call that sales, you could call that marketing, whatever. But yeah, I think so. I mean, my background in marketing, I think, taught me, of course, the marketing principles, but also in event marketing, there's a sense of urgency because we're working typically on behalf of sponsors, Coca-Cola, whatever, at an event that's a Super Bowl or the Olympic tortilla or whatever, and that event's going to start with you whether you're ready or not. And so that gave me a sense of urgency of and credit to the people that owned Ignition, Dylan, Susan, Driscoll. They really said, hey, there's you got a red alert sense of urgency here, and that's how I operate.
Well, I think it taught you a lot. And also, as you had mentioned, you send a 2-page letter to the sellers. I mean, that's a lot better. That's going to hit home more. You're trying to figure out what they're looking for, right? And that's going to hit home more than just a simple postcard that every Joe Blow investor or We Buy Ugly Houses or whatever is sending out. So
Hmm. That's right.
thank you so much for being on. I think this was awesome. This was a totally different conversation that we had with your partner, Chris. We kind of went more into the manufactured home, investing. So I think it would be really, helpful. We talked with him about the land home packages. This was more on the manufactured home investing, and I'm interested in it all. So, so that was awesome. I really appreciate you being on.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation.
So if anybody wants to get more information, Robert's information will be below. And want to also just kind of point out real quick your coaching program for anybody that might want to reach out to you that's interested in coaching.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a program called the Land Home League where we teach people how to do real estate development through land and manufactured home projects. It's a great program. So if you're interested, reach out. We have about 70 or 80 students now across the country, and we have a really great community that's a really go-giver community that helps each other. And we've seen people go from zero to 200K in the 9 months they've been with us. So it's really cool to see. But be happy to talk to anybody. I love whether you join the Land Home League or you just want to talk about real estate. Always happy to have a conversation.
Awesome. So they go to landhomeleague.com.
That you can go there, or you can just shoot me a
Okay.
text message and we'll have a call.
Awesome. Thank you, Robert. This was awesome. I hope everybody got a lot of information here about real estate investing. And if you are looking to get into it, Robert is your guy. He can definitely help you. So I appreciate all the value you brought today.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Real Estate Secrets Unlocked. Don't forget to subscribe to our show on your favorite platform, and we would love your feedback. Check us out on social and let me know what topics you want more of. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and our show. I'm your host, Danielle Damianov, and until next time, stay motivated, stay excited, and keep growing in this crazy world of real estate. Thanks for listening to Real Estate Secrets Unlocked.